After just 20 hours without sleep, your brain scans look identical to someone who is legally drunk. Not similar, identical. And most people watching this right now are operating somewhere between 17 and 20 hours awake. You are not tired, you are impaired, and you have been for years. Here is what is wild. Sleep deprivation does not just make you tired, it physically changes the structure of your brain. And some of that damage does not reverse. Even after you catch up on sleep, there is one specific thing that happens in your brain during sleep that cannot be replicated any other way. No nap, no caffeine, no meditation can replace it. Scientists only discovered it in 2013. And at the end of this video, I will show you the one number, not 8 hours, that actually predicts whether your brain is functioning at full capacity. Most sleep advice gets this completely wrong. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what is happening inside your brain right now if you are sleep deprived. Not in vague terms, at the cellular level, and you will have 3 specific, science-backed changes you can make tonight. Not next month, tonight, that will measurably improve how your brain performs tomorrow. Here is something almost nobody talks about. Sleep deprivation is the only form of self-harm that society actively celebrates. You pull an all-nighter, and people call you dedicated. You run on 4 hours, and people call you driven. You say you will sleep when you are dead, and people nod like you said something profound. But here is what is actually happening when you do that. Matthew Walker, the neuroscientist at UC Berkeley, who wrote Why We Sleep, ran a study where he kept participants awake for just 1 extra hour every night for 2 weeks. By the end, their cognitive performance was equivalent to being awake for 24 hours straight. And here is the thing that made him stop the study. They did not know. They rated their own performance as fine. Their brains were too impaired to recognize the impairment. You cannot feel how bad it has gotten. That is the cruelest part. Your brain is not a passive organ that rests when you sleep. It is running its most important maintenance cycle. During deep sleep, your brain activates the glymphatic system, a biological waste disposal network that only operates while you are unconscious. It literally flushes toxic proteins out of your neural tissue. One of the main proteins it removes is beta amyloid, the same protein that accumulates in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. 1 night of poor sleep increases beta amyloid buildup by 5%. That might not sound like much, but it compounds every night. But the glymphatic system is just the beginning. What happens to your emotions when you skip sleep is far more disturbing. After 24 hours without sleep, your amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, becomes 60% more reactive. 60%. That means a mildly annoying email feels like a personal attack. A small setback feels catastrophic. Your brain has literally lost the ability to distinguish between a real threat and an ordinary inconvenience. In a 2007 study by Matthew Walker, sleep-deprived participants showed amygdala responses that were completely disconnected from their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thought. The 2 regions had essentially lost communication. The emotional brain was firing freely with no logical override. If this is making you rethink your relationship with sleep, hit subscribe. We break down one neuroscience concept like this every single week. Here is what happens to your decision-making specifically. The prefrontal cortex, your brain's chief executive, is the first region to degrade under sleep deprivation. Before you feel tired, before you feel impaired, that region is already shutting down. A study from the University of Pennsylvania found that after 6 days of sleeping just 6 hours per night, participants performed as badly on cognitive tests as people who had been awake for 48 hours straight 6 hours for 6 days. That is most people's normal week. But memory is where it gets truly alarming. Sleep is not just rest for your memories. Sleep is when your memories are actually formed. During a specific phase called slow-wave sleep, your brain transfers information from your hippocampus, short-term storage, into your cortex for long-term keeping. If you cut that phase short, the transfer does not happen. Whatever you learn that day is essentially deleted. This is why studying all night before an exam is one of the worst strategies in neuroscience. You learn the material, then you erase it. And here is something that directly contradicts what most productivity influencers tell you. Creativity does not peak when you push through tiredness. It collapses. A study from Harvard Medical School found that the creative insight people experience during REM, sleep, the dreaming phase, produces connections between ideas that the waking brain is physically incapable of making. This is why some of history's most significant scientific breakthroughs, including the structure of benzene and the periodic table, reportedly came to their discoverers in dreams. Grinding through on no sleep does not make you more productive. It makes you less capable of the kind of thinking that actually matters. Remember that second thing I mentioned, the thing scientists discovered in 2013 that cannot be replaced by anything else? This is it. In 2013, a team at the University of Rochester discovered something extraordinary inside the glymphatic system. The brain cells actually shrink by up to 60% during sleep to allow cerebrospinal fluid to flow more efficiently through the tissue. Your brain cells physically contract while you sleep to make room for the cleaning cycle. Nothing replicates this. Not rest, not meditation, not lying down with your eyes closed, only sleep. The researchers called it one of the most important discoveries in neuroscience in the past decade, because it finally explained something that had puzzled scientists for centuries. Why do complex organisms need to be unconscious for hours every single day? Now we know. Without that cycle, the brain poisons itself with its own metabolic waste. Here is what I want you to do with this information. Send it to someone who brags about running on 4 hours of sleep, not to shame them, because they genuinely cannot feel how impaired they are. Their brain's self-assessment mechanism is the first thing that breaks. There is actually a name for this. Researchers call it sleep debt, anosognosia, from the Greek word for not knowing you are sick. The more sleep-deprived you are, the less accurately you can evaluate your own performance. It is the same phenomenon seen in certain brain injuries, where patients cannot recognize their own deficit. You cannot judge how bad it has gotten from the inside. That is what makes this different from every other form of exhaustion. Most people will never know this, but now you do, and more importantly, now you can recognize it in the people around you. And now that number I promised. The one that actually predicts brain performance. It is not 8 hours, it is about sleep cycles. One complete sleep cycle takes approximately 90 minutes and includes all the phases your brain needs: light sleep, deep slow-wave sleep, and REM. Most adults need 4 to 6 complete cycles per night. The magic is in completing cycles, not accumulating hours. 7.5 hours, which is 5 complete cycles, outperforms 8 hours of fragmented sleep every single time in cognitive testing, because 5 complete cycles give your brain everything it needs. 8 hours of interrupted sleep leaves cycles incomplete. This is why you sometimes wake up after 6 hours feeling sharp and wake up after 9 hours feeling foggy. It is not the duration. It is whether the cycle completed. Your alarm clock set to a round number is probably the worst enemy your brain has. 3 things you can do starting tonight. 1. Calculate your sleep window by cycles, not hours. Decide what time you need to wake up, count back in 90-minute blocks, and set your bedtime accordingly. 6 hours, 7.5 hours, or 9 hours all complete cycles. 7 hours does not. 8 hours does not. 2. Keep your room below 18 degrees Celsius. Your body needs to drop its core temperature by approximately 1 degree to initiate deep sleep. A warm room physically prevents the brain from entering slow-wave sleep regardless of how tired you are. This single change has measurable effects on sleep quality within the first night. 3. No screens for 30 minutes before your target sleep time. Not because of blue light. That is actually a minor factor. Because screens deliver unpredictable emotional content that activates your amygdala and delays the transition from wakefulness to sleep by measurably increasing cortisol. Boring content is fine. Stimulating content is the problem. Your brain is running maintenance every single night, or it is not, because you are not letting it. Subscribe so you never miss the science that actually explains how your mind works. Next week. The confirmation bias epidemic. The smarter you are, the worse it gets. And there is a specific type of person, you might recognize them, who is almost completely immune to it. That one surprised me. Quick question before you go. When you heard that 6 hours of sleep for 6 days is equivalent to being awake for 48 hours straight, what was your immediate reaction? Were you shocked? Or was that already your normal? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know.